What's good? What's good? What's good, folks? We are back again, bending the edge. Jake Lava, Will Spencer. We're here this time with our 2021 NFL mock draft prediction video, where we figure out what these silly teams are going to do with their draft capital here. Been grinding a lot of film, been looking at a lot of mock drafts. So much my eyes have been hurting, and we're gonna get right to it. Without further ado, let's get into the Jacksonville Jaguars. First overall, I think we all know who this is going to be. It's been the pick for, I feel like, since 2018, since he when there's a true freshman upset Alabama. This is the prodigy, golden boy himself. It's going to be Trevor Lawrence. I don't see any other way. I think that's the only reason Urban Meyer really took this job, is so he can get in there with Trevor Lawrence, and I don't have a problem with it at all. I think he's a very safe pick to be top 10 quarterback for a long time. I don't know if he has a ceiling that everyone thinks he does, but Trevor Lawrence here for the pick. And you got anything else to say?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm thinking Lawrence here too. I think that's pretty obvious. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about this one. We've known this one for a minute. I think it's been talked about enough.
All right, so let's get into the second pick overall. We got the New York Jets with Zach Wilson. Definitely think this is going to be the pick here. They moved on Sam Darnold because they obviously liked a guy. They saw a guy they liked enough to make the pick here. Came right after the BYU Pro Day, so I think it's definitely going to be Zach Wilson here. They're going to run it back again with the old boy, the old slinger from BYU.
Yeah, and honestly, like this one again, feels like it's kind of like too obvious. I think if you make a mock draft and you have anyone that's not Zach Wilson there, you're just trying to be different. We're not trying to be different here. We think Zach Wilson's going to be the second pick, and I don't know, man. When I first knew about the Jets and like their interest in Zach Wilson, I was kind of like, why don't they just trade down and do this and that and keep Darnold and all that? But they got rid of Darnold. It's pretty obvious from the quarterback here, and we feel like it's definitely going to be Zach Wilson. So,
yeah, when you pop on that tape too, I mean, I didn't know much about Zach Wilson, but then when you start actually watching him, yeah, it's BYU, yeah, it's the Mountain West. They didn't, because of all the stuff that all the stuff that happened with COVID this year. They didn't get to play any Power 5 teams, but man, if the guy's throwing in tight window, I like how Chris Sims said it. Tight windows are tight windows. This guy was throwing into tight windows, dropping dimes. Some of the most incredible arm strength. I mean, you watch him out there, he's slinging it like a shortstop. I mean, the guy is so much fun to watch. One of the best arm talents I've seen in a long, long time. So,
off of like any platform, you can do that.
Oh yeah,
backing up that kind of stuff.
Like, I don't want to compare him to Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, but if there's anybody, just like I said with Jalen Waddle, if there's anybody I'm going to compare to Tyreek Hill, it's Jalen Waddle. If there's anybody I'm going to compare to a similar in terms of skill set, I don't know if he's going to be as good as Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. Well, in terms of the skill set, Zach Wilson provides a very similar skill set to those two guys. All right, getting into it, number 3. This is where the draft really starts. I think this is where things are going to get juicy. Things are going to get interesting. I think I know who the pick's going to be, but I could definitely see it being one of the 3 remaining top 5 quarterbacks. I'm going with Mac Jones here. I listen to a lot of Chris Sims, like I've stated, and he was roommates with his buddy Kyle Shanahan at Texas, and he said he feels like he knows what type of quarterback that Kyle Shanahan likes, and ever since he's traded up, he's been saying the pick's going to be Mac Jones, and I could definitely see it here. While it does make sense, they just had a quarterback kind of like this, I guess you could say, Jimmy Garoppolo. If you look at Kyle Shanahan's past success in being an offensive coordinator in Washington, Atlanta, he did have RG3 and they did have success there, but he had more success arguably with Kirk Cousins. And then when they went to the Super Bowl and he was the offensive coordinator at Atlanta and they almost beat New England, he had a historic season with Matt Ryan. So I think Kyle Shanahan is just looking for a really quick processor, really quick decision maker, super accurate. And I think Mac Jones is all those things. While I do think it could make sense to maybe sit a guy with a lot of potential like Justin Fields or Trey Lance behind Jimmy G for a year, I think Kyle Shanahan really likes Mac Jones, but I could still see maybe Trey Lance. It sounds like Justin Fields almost fallen out of it, which kind of surprises me. But I could still see it being Trey Lance or Mac Jones. I mean, Trey Lance or Justin Fields, but in the end, I'm sticking to my guns. I'm going Mac Jones.
Yeah, I'm going with Lance here actually, and I think so there seems to be like a lot of conflicting news reports. Some of them say Jones, some of them are saying Lance, some of them say that like it's Shanahan who wants Jones, but it's the 49ers front office or what other GM wants Lance or this, that, and the other. This is really kind of like a coin flip, and I do feel like so here's the thing is that I heard coming out of San Francisco, like Shanahan said that he wants to come mobile quarterback. However, a lot of people like kind of discredit Mac Jones's athleticism, say like he's not very athletic and he can't run. Well, he
Definitely
ran a
underrated athleticism. He's
yeah
no
he ran a 4.78. It is
he's
credit with
4.8, I think 4.8 or 4.9, I think something like that. But still, that's not that bad.
yeah, it's not bad at all. So like and like I read the number 4.78. It may or may not be right. Who knows? When you go around the internet, they just have these different numbers at you, and you kind of have to like decipher and parse the information yourself. But I mean, yeah, it does make sense to me that like Shanahan, and I feel like Chris Sims is not lying with that, that assertion, saying like Shanahan wants Jones. I think he probably does want Jones actually, but I feel like Lance might be someone that can convince Shanahan into coaching. Who knows? I don't know who has more pull here at this point. If Shanahan maybe won that Super Bowl, maybe it's definitely maybe I mean I would say Mac Jones, right? But he didn't win the Super Bowl, so we'll see what the front office decides here and what they go with. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with Trey Lance here.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm excited to see where San Francisco goes. This you could say this is where the draft starts.
Yeah.
Getting into number 4 with the Atlanta Falcons for a long time, probably a couple weeks ago, I was having a lot of trouble really figuring out who this 4th pick was going to be. For a while, people were rumoring Trey Lance. They thought he was going to sit behind Matt Ryan, but like I stated in my previous video, and I think the Falcons realized too, is that they're tied to Matt Ryan for the next 2 years, with the dead cap hits of 20 million plus. So I don't think that makes a lot of sense here. I think what they're gonna do is build like an unstoppable trio of Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and Kyle Pitts. In my opinion, the top pass catcher in the draft. It's not always about building a well-rounded team, but it's about like creating mismatches. And I think this is a definite candidate for a trade back if they can get enough spots, enough in return for this pick, enough draft capital. But I think if they stay put, I think it's definitely going to be Kyle Pitts. We've never seen tight end this freakish before, and I think the Falcons would be smart to take a guy this special with Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I mean, I said Kyle Pitts as well. Here, I think they'll take Kyle Pitts. He's probably like the best overall like raw athletic prospect. Kyle Pitts is like just a monstrous athlete. I feel like Atlanta's gonna kind of build on their strength a little bit here. Actually, they already had Hayden Hurst, and he was doing okay, but I think someone like Kyle Pitts could change how that offense looks a bit essentially. And they do have 2 more years to kind of like figure out the quarterback situation. But I feel like at 4, with 3 quarterbacks taken ahead of them already, they'll probably just sit tight with Ryan for a couple of years until they really find a good opportunity to get somebody that Ryan will put under his wing or trade up to get somebody like kind of like what the Chiefs did with Alex Smith. They'll probably do a similar thing where they trade up, maybe reach for somebody that they really, really like and then coach them up instead. But for now, I feel like they take Kyle Pitts, and when you introduce that new quarterback to your team, and that you have this kind of monster on your team, I mean, you got to feel pretty good about it as a quarterback. So,
all right, getting to the Cincinnati Bengals got their prize quarterback last year in Joe Burrow, and the thing now is they need to surround him with weapons, whether that be a pass catcher or an offensive tackle. I think Sewell is the obvious choice here for a lot of people, especially after Joe Burrow got hurt. But with the more and more reports that come out that the Bengals just love Jamar Chase, I think they're going to go Jamar Chase. I think they're somewhat incompetent, and I think they're going to try to. And they just signed Riley Reef in free agency, so I think that's going to give them an excuse to go with the best pass catcher available on the board, the best receiver in the draft, in my opinion, Jamar Chase. I think they're still going to get a tackle because Riley Reef is a solid stopgap starter. He's not bad. They got Jonah Williams a couple years ago, but I think they're going to get a tackle in the second round because this is a deep tackle class. But I think they're going to argue here. They want to reunite that special connection in Baton Rouge in 2019 that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase had, and then get a tackle to protect Joe Burrow in the second round.
Yeah, just even thinking about this one makes me reconsider it. But so I actually had Chase at first in the spot, but instead I'm going with Sewell here. I think I don't think I think what's going to happen is that it's going to be a matter of like teams just cannot pass on someone like Sewell. I think that's going to be like the deciding factor here. Like Cincinnati's going to get Jamar Chase and then find like a second round receiver that they like. Basically, I feel like they're probably like if if it were me, I take Sewell. As Jake said, if it were him, he takes Sewell too. But when you hear reports talking about Chase, Jamar Chase this, Jamar Chase that, right? You would think it's him, but I'm gonna get Sewell just because
it makes sense.
Yeah, it just makes sense. And I feel like if it makes sense for me, it might make sense for some of those guys in Cincinnati. God bless them, right? They're gonna live in Cincinnati. Their lives are already tough enough. They really should make them tougher. They should pick Sewell. Anyways, let's to the next pick.
All right, in the next one, Miami Dolphins got 2 first-round picks, and what I think they're definitely going to do with this first pick is take a weapon to help their quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. And I definitely feel like the Dolphins were originally at 3, then they, because of the trade with the 49ers, they went all the way back to 12. But on the same day, they went up from 12 to 6 with the Eagles. And I think they did that to ensure they got one of the top pass catchers in Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, and this guy, Devonta Smith. And I think Smith, obviously, with Jamar Chase and Kyle Pitts off the board, as you had seen, is the last one left. So I think the Dolphins are going to reunite Tua with the guy he threw the game-winning touchdown pass to in the national championship when they were both freshmen. Still remember that great moment.
Yeah,
I think they're going to try to, just like Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, reuniting that connection in Cincinnati. I think we're going to see the same thing in Miami with Devonta Smith and Tua.
Yeah, so Sewell wasn't taken even the last pick, and you still have Chase on the board. If you're Miami, you still want Chase at this point. I mean, even though there is that that like pre-created connection between Tua and Smith, I don't feel like that has enough value to put a prospect like Smith over someone like Chase. I feel like here, Miami's going to be taking Chase. And for the same reasons that Jake was talking about, I think Tua needs a weapon, needs another weapon. I also think that Tua, this is really like with how fast the league is moving, this is really like a make or break year for him.
Exactly.
And honestly, like let's say they draft Smith over like Chase, like in my case, that's what's happening, right? Because Chase is still on the board. Let's say they like drafted Smith over Chase because of the connection between Tua and Smith. Well, what if Tua doesn't pan out, and like now you have somebody that like you reached for because you thought that this quarterback that you like had, that you like, it's like he's on the short leash. Why would you draft just to like fit his wants and needs? You want to get the best prospect, just for the future and the sake of the team, not just for the quarterback. So
right. I see what you're saying, but I agree. I think in your scenario with Chase and Smith both on the board, I do think the Dolphins would take Chase, but I disagree with the I don't know if you're necessarily saying that. I think you're just trying to prove a point about the connection, but I don't think it would be a reach at 6. I think Chase is Smith is just as good a prospect as, I think it's like a 1A, 1B and some teams board with Devonta Smith. I think he's right there as an overall prospect.
Yeah, they could go with Smith here. It's definitely a possibility. I'm not ruling it out, but I do think Chase is a better prospect. That's why I think Miami might take best available prospect. I feel like they're pretty close, but consensus being right now is that Chase is the best one, and I feel like Miami, I don't know, they might just go off that instead of who Tua wants to be with it or whatever, you know.
Mhm.
But
Yep.
yeah,
Getting into the Detroit Lions, we all saw the legendary Dan Campbell presser, head coach of the Detroit Lions. The guy was talking about biting off kneecaps and everything, and that guy to me is not going to take a receiver. I know William might think otherwise of his mock draft, but uh, I do not think that guy is going to take a receiver on the board. And in my mock draft, it just so happens that the best offensive tackle on the board, one of the best tackle prospects we've seen in years, Penei Sewell's on the board. So I just don't see any way. I know they got Taylor Decker on one side, they got Tyrell Crosby, and Tyrell Crosby's not that bad, but when you got Penei Sewell on the board, I don't think you're passing him up. Best tackle prospect in years, like I said, and Dan Campbell. I also saw he has a 6-year contract with the Lions, so the guy's in no rush to force a quarterback pick or try to win now, so to speak. I think he's going to take his time, and I think one of the best ways to start out a rebuild, because the Lions have so many holes on their team, is to take a potential generational offensive tackle talent in Penei Sewell.
yeah, no. So as I said before, I had Cincinnati taking Chase, and I had Miami taking a receiver, which would be Smith here. Um, and then I had Sewell going to Detroit, and I agree. I think Sewell is a prospect that you just can't pass up on. If he's still on the board here, obviously take him over. I mean, obviously take him over, like, I guess, Waddle and who else they'd be looking at, right? Uh, but really, like, that would be about it for them. Maybe they like shock the entire world and they take Fields or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. No, I'm just kidding. But they could take Slater here, right? And that's a possibility. That's kind of the guy that I was also looking at, and that's option B for them, though. I think that Slater, I do think he can be a top 10 prospect, right? But I just think with Smith on the board here, and they need a receiver, they lost so much receiver talent. I know that Stan Campbell, but I feel like if it was just him, it would definitely be Slater. But I don't think it's just him. Again, I think the front office is going to influence this one a little bit here, and they'll take Devonta Smith. Uh, you know, Again, we've kind of talked about how good he is. Compared to Chase, 1A, 1B. This is a great receiver prospect. Lots of people talking about his weight, his stature, that kind of thing. I mean, the dude's like 22, 21. He can put some weight on guys. It's not a big deal. We've seen it before happen with a lot of prospects that come in, into the NFL. Some of them bulk up. Yeah, no, I think the Lions, they just can't pass up on him here. He's on the board. And I just don't think he's a better pick for them than Slater would be.
And with the 8th pick, the Carolina Panthers. Wait, I am receiving word the Washington football team has traded up to the 8th overall pick and swap picks with the Carolina Panthers. The Washington football team is on the clock. It's one of two guys here. And I think a quarterback needy team, whether it be Washington, New England, Chicago, even, I think they're going to jump in front of Denver here and take one of these guys. And they're going to take a guy who's somewhat in the mold of Cam Newton that Ron Rivera had success with in Carolina. I can't see them going into a season with Ryan Fitzpatrick as a starter and not have a young guy developing behind him or eventually taking over at some point in the season. The guy I think they're going to take based off reports and just recent buzz, I think Trey Lance is going to be the pick here over Justin Fields. Trey Lance, the Washington football team.
Yeah, I like the logic there. I like what you said in the mold of Cam Newton. He really is kind of, he can run, he can, pass. He's a little bit, I feel like he's a little bit more safe in his throws than Cam Newton is perhaps. Maybe he doesn't have as much arm strength, but man, he can run. He looks like Steve McNair out there. He's got like that country strength. He can just kind of run over people. He doesn't look like he can, but once he gets out on the field, it's pretty nuts. He's kind of a beast, to be honest with you. But here I don't have any trades in my draft. Essentially, I couldn't decide and pick and choose, who would trade, who wouldn't. But if there were a trade, I feel like it would probably be like Chicago to this eight pick, and they take someone like Fields. However, I'm not going to simulate that here. I'm saying that Carolina, if they're here and they will be in this situation, they're taking Slater. I think Slater is a great choice, especially for them. They just got a new quarterback that they want to protect. They want to invest in him. I feel like if Devonta Smith or Jamar Chase were still on the board at this point, maybe Carolina takes them. They don't really need a wide receiver as much as they need a lineman, though. So, yeah, they're probably going to stick with Slater here. He's the best, he's probably like the best, offensive lineman prospect in the draft at this point. They'll probably just pick up the top and go with him, versus kind of reaching for Waddle. I think Waddle is probably like 11, 12, 13 around those picks usually. And I feel like at 8, they can get someone like Slater, who's like a top 10 prospect.
I like your logic there. I think if Carolina stays put, I probably would have them taking Slater too. Getting into the Denver Broncos, just like Atlanta for a long time, I had this. It's kind of a wild card pick, and I definitely think definitely think they could jump up. I think they could jump up to 4 maybe and take this guy who I have them taking at 9. I think you know who I'm talking about here. We're talking about Justin Fields. But I think they're really comfortable sitting back here. As crazy as that is, some teams do that, like to sit back and take the best of these two quarterbacks. I think they like Fields and Lance, and I think they're going to go with Fields here. Drew Lock, he's only had 2 seasons, but man, I thought he had some potential, but man, his last season was just not great at all. And I don't think Denver's that invested in Drew Lock. They took him in the 2nd round. So I think after 2 years, they're really going to essentially cut their ties with Drew Lock here and go with the guy has one of the best resumes I've seen in a couple of years. I think he's being nitpicked. Well, I do think he definitely has his flaws, and some of it is fair criticism. I do think Justin Fields is being nitpicked a little too much, and I think he's definitely worthy of being this 9th pick here. And I think in a lot of drafts, he would be the 1 or 2. I think this guy's extremely talented. He's not without his flaws. He's a potential boom bust prospect I could see, but this guy definitely has the potential to be a great talent, and I think he'd be definitely worthy of the pick here for the Broncos.
Yeah, no, so if Justin Fields is here, Denver obviously takes him. They're not gonna let him slide past this point. I've seen like mock drafts saying he's gonna go to like 24, something like that. No, there's no way this Fields is gonna slide past 15. Fields is too good of a physical prospect, too good of a physical specimen to drop that low. He does have some issues like reading coverage, and sometimes like with his decision making is not as good. Also, he played at Ohio State with like some really great receivers that were more often than not just wide open essentially. But he's a pretty smart guy. I watched. So this is kind of a fun fact. I watched QB1, and if you guys watch QB1, he was on it.
Competing with Trevor Lawrence, yeah.
Yeah.
That was great.
But he scored. He scored pretty high in his ACT. He's a smart guy. No, no, he did. He got like a 28 or something. It's pretty good. So he's. I feel like he's definitely like a really teachable person. I'm not using that as like straight up evidence, but I feel like him having trouble reading coverages can be fixed. Like Mahomes literally just this year said, "Oh yeah, to start learning how to read coverages this year, guys." That kind of stuff, and he's doing fine. I'm not saying Justin Fields is Patrick Mahomes, but you got to remember Mahomes is taken 10th, so a pick below where Fields is right now on the board. Say what you want, he's the 4th quarterback off the board at this point, but he's still got the talent to be a perennial Pro Bowler. Again, boomer bust kind of guy. But I feel like Denver's going to give him a couple years here, and I feel like Drew Lock has overstayed his welcome at this point. Last year, if he was serviceable, if he was even serviceable, they still give him.
I think they would have brought him back.
Yeah,
I think
he was awful. Denver doesn't need to waste any more time with this guy. He's not developing. He's gonna be a clipboard holder from now on, pretty much. I don't see him. This might be like the coldest take of all time. He might win MVP next year or something. I don't know. I'll never make another football video again if he wins MVP next year. But from what we've seen for the last like 5 years out of Lock, like there is no reason they should not be taking Fields here at this point. So I say it's Fields as well.
Yep. Let's get to the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of corners. We've seen various corners and defensive players being mocked here to Dallas. And I can't see Dallas passing up on defense. They have holes all over. I feel like Jerry likes sure things, guys from Power 5 conferences, great football programs. And I think they're going to big time programs. And in this draft, they're going to take the most surefire corner from a big time program, Patrick Surtain, second. PS2 from Alabama. I think he's the most NFL ready corner in the draft. Maybe not the best, in my opinion. I think that's Caleb Farley, but that's a story for another day. And I think Patrick Surtain is a good pick here, worthy of being 10th overall, and will help out the Dallas Cowboys greatly.
Yeah, and they love these. They really love these like SEC players too. It seems like a perfect pick for them. You know, I did talk about maybe Horn being here, but I really feel like Jerry's going to go with a guy from Alabama. Uh, Patrick Surtain is second as well. I feel like this is pretty obvious for Dallas. I feel like Surtain is a guy that kind of fits their culture too. You know, really big city, big money. He just came from like the.
They just drafted Trayvon Diggs from Alabama last year.
Yeah,
Unite.
yeah.
People are saying to reunite those two corners.
They're going to stick with Bama here.
Yeah. Agreed. Getting into number 11, the New York Football Giants. Originally had Jalen Waddle here, but they just got Kenny Galladay in free agency, and I think they got a few guys that were serviceable at the position. You got Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard. They got John Ross in free agency for whatever that's worth. And you got to think, when you're thinking of New York Giants, you got to think in the mind of Dave Gettleman. And this is a stereotype. Gettleman's a stereotypical football guy. You know, he loves that offensive and defensive line. He loves building through that. And you go to their defense, and man, they got absolutely no edge rushers. And while I think this is I don't want to say a reach because I really like this guy a lot. Pick his defensive end, Kwity Paye out of Michigan. I think he's gonna go a little higher than people expect. I think he's gonna go 11 here. If he can work on his pass rush, he's already an elite run defender. If he can work on his pass rush, he could be a Pro Bowl caliber player.
So here I actually have Michael Parsons going here. Reason being,
Okay, I can see that for sure.
yeah, I think that again, you look at their defense; they got a lot of holes on defense. I do think edge rusher is one of them, but I feel like they're going to take the best prospect that kind of like fits what they need, and I feel like Parsons is that guy at this point. Parsons at this point is probably the top guy on the board, period, in terms of like teams looking at like upside and like raw talent, that kind of stuff. Just for what they need to fill. So, yeah, I feel like they're going to go with Parsons here. Really like fast linebacker, kind of flies around the field. He can he can also generate pass rush too, just what they need as well. So he does, fit these needs that Jake's talking about as well. To get Kwity Paye. Kwity Paye, that's not necessarily like his strength, but it's something that you could definitely coach someone into doing. So, yeah, I would say that they take Parsons here instead, just because he's just the best overall guy left, and he fits their needs.
Mm-hmm. All right, getting into number 12, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. They have a variety of holes here. Receiver and corner seem to be the two most mock picks here. And while they really need a receiver for Jalen Hurts, I mean, Jalen Reagor is the only guy who's really anything more than a number 2 receiver on that team. I mean, you got Travis Fulgham. He had a run, but he's definitely fizzled down. They just cut Alshon Jeffrey. They really need a receiver, but I think they can get a guy like that in the second round. Jalen Waddle does make sense here. You don't often see teams go receiver in back-to-back years. They've got Darius Slay. They got Avonte Maddox at corner. But outside of that, they really don't have much else. And in today's league, you need 3 or 4 corners to really compete in the NFL. And I think they're going to take J.C. Horn here. Had a phenomenal pro day, really tore it up, 4.4, 40+ inch vertical. I mean, this guy just tore it up. Had a really great season in the SEC, has gone against all the top pass catchers that we've seen come out in the past 2 years. J.C. Horn, battle tested, definitely worthy of being in discussion here for the 12th pick, and I think the Eagles are going to take him.
Yeah, so I have an interesting pick. So yeah, he talks about receiver. I think they take Waddle here. This is like this is pretty much, again, this is kind of similar to the Tua situation, right? So they kind of have these so I mean, Hurts' situation is a little bit different from Tua's, right? A second round pick, you'll give him like maybe 16, 17 games to get his crap figured out, and if he doesn't by then, they're probably just gonna like move on. Whereas with Tua, they probably give him the full season and a half before they get rid of him. And I feel like Hurts is on a short leash here. If he doesn't do well this year, they're probably going to look elsewhere. But I feel like they're going to help him out here. They want to see what he can do with this offense. I know that I've been hearing some reports saying like this isn't necessarily his job or whatever, like, or he doesn't want the job. Like, come on now, we know he's going to be the starter. Come the first game of the season unless he's injured. And I feel like they're going to help him out here by taking Jalen Waddle, who again we kind of Jake kind of glossed over it. He said like, hey, he's kind of I'm not saying he's the next Tyreek Hill, but if he were to be compared to a player in terms of his style, I'd say he fits, Tyreek Hill mold. Philadelphia with this pick would be really interesting because now you have Jalen Rager, you have uh, Jalen Waddle, so now you have two Jalen's. That gets kind of confusing. But no, but at the same time, this
You got
team.
Jalen Hurts. And you got Jalen
Yeah.
Hurts.
Oh my God, dude! Like, how are they gonna? The
Triple
coach like,
entendre.
yeah, they'll all run over there at the same time or something. You have a starting receivers and his quarterback there with just one name. Anyway, but I feel like this is a great pick for them. This is gonna, give Jalen Hurts the chance that he deserves as well. I feel like there is some trust there with him. That's kind of like why they took him out with that last game of the season. I know that sounds kind of weird, but like I feel like they were just kind of preserving him just because they know the season's over. Let's tank and let's get this guy some help, essentially. So I feel like there's a little bit of trust there. I feel like they're going to show that by taking Waddle here.
Gotta love a good tank. Gotta love a good tank. Respect the tank.
I love a good tank.
13 overall, we got the LA Chargers. And while I feel like every mock draft I've seen since the season's ended has them taking an offensive lineman here. And on my board, I know he had Rashawn Slater going number 8, but on my board, Rashawn Slater is still available. And I think there's multiple offensive linemen. You got guys like Christian Darrisaw that makes sense here to protect Herbert. But I think the Chargers kind of go against the grain sometimes. And I don't really remember the last time they took a first-round offensive lineman. And they got Keenan Allen. They got Mike Williams. Yeah, but they just lost Hunter Henry too. And I'm going to go with Williams' last pick. I'm going to go Jalen Waddle here at 13. And while we're passing up Rashawn Slater is questionable, I think Waddle will be a dangerous field stretcher if we got for the young gun, Justin Herbert. And think about that wide receiving corps now. You got Keenan Allen, super great route runner, one of the most sure-handing guys in the league. Then you got Mike Williams, hasn't lived up to his first-round billing, but he's still a solid number 2 receiver. And you got Jalen Waddle. Now you're Chargers receiving corps starting to come together if you can get a guy like Waddle at 13.
Yeah, no. So I can see that logic. I understand that. And if I were the Chargers here on Jake's trajectory, I'd probably take Slater, to be honest. But I do see why they take Waddle. And actually, I've made like 3 or 4 mocks at this point, and Waddle did end up with the Chargers a couple times, to be honest with you. So that seems pretty logical to me. It makes sense. Get another weapon for Herbert. This guy is a shooting star at this point. You get him a weapon like this, they'll develop together, kind of like Tyreek and Mahomes have developed chemistry together and just get better and better and better. But anyways, on my board, Waddle is not available. I feel like they're going to take J.C. Horn here. They're going to work on their defense. They're in a division with like Derek Carr and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it gets tougher, but like when you have to play Mahomes 2 times a year, it can be pretty brutal. And I feel like the Chargers really are just like a slightly better defense away from being able to defeat the Chiefs, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, who knows. But yeah, no, I feel like they're going to go with something defensive here just because, again, they got to play Carr and they got to play Mahomes combined 4 times a year. I don't know. That just seems like the logical pick here for me. They need corners. They don't have any star cornerbacks right now. Any guys that are, making the Pro Bowl every year. I feel like Horn could potentially be a star in the NFL at cornerback, given his physical traits. He does have some technique issues, but he seems like a guy that, given the right kind of coach, given the right guidance, could be great. So yeah, I feel like this is he has a pretty high ceiling, and I feel like this is somebody that, like, if you're looking defensively, they're not going to pass up on him.
Getting to 14th overall, Minnesota Vikings. I had them selecting Rashawn Slater, tackle/guard/offensive lineman out of Northwestern. I definitely think they could use an edge rusher opposite Daniel Hunter, and I think Jalen Phillips is worthy of the pick here, but I think the concussions are going to scare teams off a little bit, and they really need to shore up Cousins' blind side, like I talked about in the last video. I'm not sold on their left tackle. And Slater's a guy, go in the top 10 for sure, and has the capability of being an awesome guard as well if he doesn't work out at tackle. I think he kind of reminds me, it's a super high-end, super lofty comparison, but in terms of play style and versatility, kind of reminds me of Zach Martin from the Cowboys a little bit, a guy who could be very good tackle, but could be a Pro Bowl and a great player at guard. And I think Rashawn Slater will be the pick here for Minnesota.
So I have Farley going here, Caleb Farley. He's at cornerback out of Virginia Tech, really fast, like great size. I feel like he has, I mean, honestly, out of like all the cornerbacks in the draft, he probably has the best upside in my opinion. I feel like he's been overlooked a little bit as well. I feel like Surtain is slightly overrated, and I feel like Horn is kind of right where he should be. But I would say that Farley is being undervalued a lot. I feel like this would be a great pick for Minnesota at 14, especially given how the league is trending nowadays. If you have good corners, it's going to help your team out a lot. That Minnesota defense has always been somewhat tough. They have a decent front seven. So if they can get a better secondary to if they can shore up their secondary a little bit, here they could have, really contentious defense. I think last year was kind of a fluke. I feel like this Minnesota team's going to come out looking different, and Caleb Farley is going to be, an important part of that turnaround, especially defensively in the secondary. Maybe not his rookie year, but I feel like as he develops more and more, you're really going to see this guy's athleticism pay dividends, over time and really, produce a lot of value for this team going forward. So, yeah, no, I think they're going to take Farley here. Farley on some boards, I've seen him as high as 7 before, like top 10 kind of athleticism here at 14. This is great value. I think, right now, at least on like my board with how things are going, I would say he's probably the best overall player that's left on the board at this point. So that's another reason why Minnesota was taken. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment there. I have on my big board, I have Caleb Farley, best corner in the draft. Top 10 talent, totally worthy of being this pick. I just think, like I said with Jalen Phillips, Caleb Farley had a back surgery. I think that's going to scare teams off a little bit. I think he's going to fall. I think he's going to fall a little bit, but he's definitely worthy of coming off the board here. And I think there's still a shot he could go this high in the draft. We'll just have to see what happens. Getting the 15th overall pick, we got the New England Patriots. I have them going Micah Parsons, linebacker out of Penn State. While New England could certainly be in the mix, like I stated earlier, around that Washington range of trading, like a Washington who traded up to 8, I think they could certainly be in the mix for that. To get a guy like a falling Trey Lance, a falling Justin Fields, I think that would make a lot of sense for them. But Washington beats them to the punch here, doesn't fall in their favor. And I honestly was looking at while they didn't have a great season last year, they went 7-9, I'm pretty sure. And they didn't have the best season. They really went heavy in free agency all over the board. I was looking at the roster. They went and traded for Trent Brown. They re-signed Joe Thuney. Overall, they don't have a lot of holes on their roster. So I think they can afford to go best player available here. And you look at guys that Belichick has played with, played linebacker in the past. You got Dante Hightower. You got Jamie Collins. He likes these big, athletic, freak, versatile linebackers. And Micah Parsons, arguably, talking as a draft prospect, is more talented than both those dudes who have turned out to be Pro Bowlers. I think if Parsons is here at 15, I don't see any way New England passes him up.
Yeah, no way. I was kind of looking into like I feel like Parsons is probably at least a top 15 guy. It's probably the lowest he'll ever go here. Especially since he's probably the best linebacker prospect in the entire draft. And not only that, but he really fits the build of like what we're seeing now with like Devin White, really fast, fly around the field. But Parsons is really interesting because he can get to the quarterback too sometimes. He's very versatile, very athletic. So yeah, no, I feel like this is a guy that kind of fits that New England defense. I feel like this is a good pick here for them, especially given like the circumstances they're under at this point. There's no real quarterbacks that can really draft here. But on my board, there's a quarterback, and I feel like they'll take him, and that's Mac Jones. So I think they're going to take Mac Jones here. They want to develop a quarterback. I feel like, Belichick has limited time left as a coach. In my opinion, he's getting older. This will probably be one of the last guys he develops. But if they do, in fact, get Mac Jones, don't be shocked if they sit him behind Newton this year and then have him starting next year. I think that the reason they take Jones here is simply because, this team's defense is decaying basically right now. their best players are kind of getting into their 30s, kind of getting a little bit older. But I feel like this team, they went 12-4 just 2 years ago with Brady at quarterback, or what we would call an aging Brady, right? I feel like if they get decent to serviceable performance out of their QB, they could have a chance at making a run in the playoffs, or maybe even again, who knows, making a Super Bowl or something like that. But that's 2 or 3 years from the road from now. But yeah, if Mac Jones is still here, they take him. Simply put, yeah.
All right, we got the Arizona Cardinals 16th overall pick. I have them going Greg Newsome, cornerback out of Northwestern. I think this may be a surprising pick to some, but I think this is a guy who's been shooting up draft boards. Super clean 2020 film. I think edge makes a lot of sense here. We can see Jalen Phillips. We can see Caleb Farley, who I've talked about, go here. But I think, like I said, I think they're going to fall. And they just lost Patrick Peterson, longtime corner. And I think they're in dire need of a corner. And yeah, like I said, Farley could be the pick here, but I think the injury is going to scare teams off a little bit. And Greg Newsome, coming off a great 2020 season, he's healthy. He's a great prospect here. And yeah, I think they're going to take a phenomenal covered corner to replace Patrick Peterson, and they're going to go get Greg Newsome.
So here so you just talk about edge. I have been taking an edge here. I've been taking Gregory Rousseau. Yeah, Rousseau's like really high on my board here, but I feel like he's just a good fit for them. I do feel like Kwity Paye is better than him, and I feel like Jalen Phillips even might be more talented than Rousseau. But I feel like he fits their scheme really well. They're looking for somebody. They just got like JJ Watt, and they have like Chandler Jones out there, but they put Rousseau out there with them as well. I mean, my God, quarterbacks are gonna have nightmares. They're going to be seeing ghosts, as Sam Darnold said. Of course, he's talking about the secondary, but with Arizona, it's going to be quarterback is getting hit so hard from both sides that he'll be seeing things essentially. So yeah, I'm going with Rousseau here. I think he's a good fit for their scheme, and also I think they do need an edge. So this seems like a logical pick for me here. If I were Arizona, I'd probably take Kwity Paye. But again, this is kind of like predicting what we think they're going to do. And this is what I think they're going to do.
All right, 17th overall, we got the Las Vegas Raiders. Good old John Gruden and Mike Mayock. I have them going Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle out of Virginia Tech. I think this is a guy who could go as high as maybe 13, 14 range. I think that's where he's most commonly locked. But Las Vegas here, Las Vegas. I think their O-line was ravaged in the offseason. So I think they 100% have to replace O-line the first 2 rounds. They lost Rodney Hudson, the center. They traded away Trent Brown. They got to protect Derek Carr. O-line is very important. So luckily for them, they have a guy that is available. That's widely projected to go in the top 20. Guy with a lot of potential. Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle out of Virginia Tech, to the Raiders here.
Yeah, don't worry about getting that mixed up. I don't think their fans even know where they play, to be honest with you. Anyways, here I have them taking taking an interesting pick here. So they could take Darrisaw. I agree they take a tackle here, but I think they take Tevin Jenkins instead. Tevin Jenkins is I think he has like a lot of like great technique that he shows physically, though. Like his arms are a little bit short. That's like one of his like shortcomings. That could be an issue. I don't think it will, though. I think his technique lends itself to kind of like covering up and hiding that issue. I like that, he's very like aggressive, really like a dog for a team. I feel like this is a guy that, like, when you look at him, like you said, like this guy has an amazing motor, and NFL teams, eat that kind of stuff up. You want guys who are going to work hard, and show up and, lift and do all the workouts, do all the small things first. And I think Jenkins is going to be one of those guys, and they trust him with that. So they'll take him here instead of Darrisaw, at least in my draft.
Getting into the 18th overall pick, we got the Miami Dolphins on the board with their second first-round pick. With their first pick at 6 overall, they secured Tua's college safety blanket with their first pick, Devonta Smith. And now they need to find a dominant pass rusher for that Brian Flores defense. I have them going Jason Owe, defensive end out of Penn State here. Owe is a little bit of a risky pick due to his rawness and lack of production, but at 6'5", 250, running a 4.37. We've never seen an edge guy before with this freaky of an athletic profile. And we've seen raw edge guys like Chandler Jones, Daniil Hunter with a lack of production, but rare athleticism, work out at the NFL level. And if there's any position like to take chances at quote unquote projects, I think it's an edge rusher. And I think Jason Oweh has a ton of potential. And I see the Dolphins taking him here at 18.
Yeah, I have the Dolphins taking an edge rusher as well. Now, this is going to be Quiddy Pay. Quiddy Pay is probably the best edge rusher on the board. I just have Rousseau going before him. I just think that's what the Cardinals are going to take. I think that Miami's going to stick with the guy who's the best on the board. It's going to be Quiddy Pay here. That's who I think is the best rusher on the board. This is a pretty safe pick again. Again, they're taking probably the best prospect on the board left at this point. In terms of like his talent, besides outside of like Jalen Phillips, like Phillips can be a bit of a risk though, especially with all his injuries. And they'll probably stick with Pay, who's a little less, has like a little less of a ceiling, as high as the ceiling as Phillips does, but at the same time, he's been healthier historically than Phillips has been. So Miami probably sticks with a safer pick here and goes to Quiddy Pay.
All right, with Carolina trading back and accumulating more picks to fill the many holes on the roster, they're on the board here at 19 instead of Washington because of the trade that Washington had to move up and get Trey Lance. Washington here at 19, or Carolina here at 19, I have them taking Elijah Vera Tucker, the offensive lineman out of USC. In this scenario, I think they're just going to take the best offensive lineman available to make sure Sam Darnold is not seeing any ghosts in Carolina. I think this pick makes a lot of sense to them here. One of the safest picks in the first round, in my opinion. Elijah Vera Tucker, offensive lineman, USC to the Panthers.
Yeah, I actually have this is interesting. I just have Vera Tucker here as well. So he's very versatile. Again, the issue does come up with him though. He played tackle in college, doesn't have the arm length to really play tackle in the NFL. So a lot of teams are kind of gonna. I think teams are gonna be drafting him as a guard sometimes. Maybe they like kind of switching between guard and tackle. We do see that in the NFL sometimes. Guys that kind of like don't really have the prototypical size to play tackle sometimes kind of switch between the two positions. And I feel like Vera could be one of those guys, very versatile. However, this is Washington taking him. Keep in mind because I don't have the trade here, so I have Washington actually taking Vera Tucker here. I feel like this is a pretty high value pick for them. Again, like probably one of the best guys on the board besides like Phillips at this point.
20th overall pick, we got the good old Chicago Bears. I have them going offensive tackle Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State. While the Bears GM Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, head coach Matt Nagy, are on the hot seat, and I could definitely see them trading up to target a falling quarterback. They get beat, just like New England, they get beat out by Washington for Trey Lance. And they have to fill their biggest need on offense anyway, which in my opinion is offensive line. Luckily, they still have a nasty offensive tackle prospect on the board to fill that hole. They go get Tevin Jenkins here. I can't see them passing up on Tevin Jenkins unless maybe you got like a Darisaw or somebody here. But in my Tevin Jenkins, 20th overall.
I had some trouble with Chicago. They gave me the most issues. I really feel like there's a part of me that really feels like Chicago's gonna go for a quarterback here, maybe trade up. Get like Fields, something like that. Or maybe they take, kind of a wild card QB here like Kellen Mond or Mills. But I feel like they understand that they can probably wait unless there's something they hear something out of, New Orleans. Maybe New Orleans wants to take one of those quarterbacks and, they decide to take Mond or Mills here and shock the world. They'll probably go something more safe. He's drafted earlier here and they do kind of need a cornerback. So they're going to take, Greg Newsome out of Northwestern. He's he's an interesting prospect. I didn't look much into him. Jake kind of put me onto him, to be honest with you. But this is, I feel like this is a good fit for them, especially, this is kind of like a hometown kind of guy. He went to college right by Chicago. There's always, if people say like, oh yeah, like, that doesn't mean anything, but you see this kind of relationship with players all the time where they went to like high school and Chicago, or they went to like, college, in, Northern Illinois, whatever, and they fare better, near home. This is very true of like a lot of NFL players. Like, look at what Derrick Henry does when he comes to Florida every year against Jacksonville. I mean, it's just like if you have him in fantasy, you better be starting him. I don't care if he's questionable, man. You better be starting that man. He's gonna go for 40. But yeah, no, I feel like Newsom's a great choice for them here. Kind of hometown guy, pretty safe pick. I feel like he has a lot of upside too, based on like small bits of him I've seen. But I do think that he's a good pick for them here at 20.
All right, 21st overall, we got the Indianapolis Colts. I have them going edge Jalen Phillips out of Miami. While I could definitely see them finding a replacement for Anthony Costanzo, their offensive tackle who just retired, the high-end tackle prospects, in my opinion, and I think the NFL's opinion, just went off the board. And edge is just as big of a need. They don't have any premier pass rushers on their roster. Phillips has injury concerns, but is too good to pass up here. And they take a chance at 21 on a guy with top 10 talent, Jalen Phillips.
So actually, this is interesting. I had Phillips going here as well. Yeah, this guy again, pretty much every single like report that I've read on him, pretty much like everything that I've watched on him says that this guy's like a top 10 talent, top 10 talent. This guy has a lot of upside. The injuries are a huge issue though, and whenever people talk about this guy would be so great if he was an injury all the time, uh, you know that kind of like injuries also make a player like good or bad, right? So like Phillips could play great for 10 games a year, but if he's not consistent, if he's not always in the field, they can't really build around him. He's just going to kind of like be there sometimes and not be there sometimes. So, but I do feel like at 21, they can take a chance on him being that kind of player. So they're going to draft him here. They do need an edge rusher. Yeah, I have Jalen Phillips here as well. I think it's a great pick for them. I think he has great upside. Why not take a chance at 21?
All right, 22nd overall, we got their division rivals. We got the Tennessee Titans. I have the Tennessee Titans going Terrace Marshall, wide receiver out of LSU, Corey Davis left in free agency, as well as Jonnu Smith, the tight end. And I can't really see them going into the offseason, into the regular season, with Josh Reynolds as their number 2 receiver. And on the board here, there's a lot of guys in consideration, a lot of receivers. You got Elijah Moore. Maybe we could see that connection with that Ole Miss wide receiver connection. Him and A.J. Brown get reunited. You can see Kadarius Toney here, maybe. Rashad Bateman, similar player to Corey Davis. They could all be in play. But I think it's going to be hard for the Titans to pass up on this prototype alpha wide receiver size and a guy who ran a 4.4 at his pro day and has loads of potential. I think they're going to take Terrace Marshall here to put across from A.J. Brown.
Oh yeah, so I mean, we still have Darius on the board here. I think the Tennessee's going to go with the best player on the board. I think Terrace Marshall's a good pick, and I do have him actually going as a spoiler later in this first round. But I do feel like, he could be seen as a bit of a reach here. Who knows? People have a lot of different kind of guys like mocked here, like Elijah Moore, Kadarius Toney. But I think Tennessee takes Darius out here if he's still on the board, and to build on their strengths a little bit. Protect Tannehill a little bit more. I just feel like that was kind of the reason why they lost that playoff game. Essentially, they struggled, with dealing with that Baltimore front seven a lot. When Henry couldn't get anything going, neither could Tannehill, and I feel like that team is very they need a strong offensive line to be able to score points. So, if Darius is on the board here, I mean, they had to take him basically. There's no reason they wouldn't take him here. I think they go tackle here with Darius.
All right, 23rd overall, we got the New York Jets, another team with the second first-round pick. I have them going Caleb Farley, corner out of Virginia Tech. The Jets have a lot of holes on defense, and Robert Saleh, their new head coach, is a defensive guy. They absolutely need edge rushers, but cornerback is just as big of a hole on their roster. And I think they're going to take a chance on a guy who's a top 10 prospect, if healthy, and is still at this value. They're going to stop the fall of Caleb Farley and bring him to the Big Apple.
23 Farley here is a no-brainer. This would be a great pick for the Jets. So, yeah, if he's on the board here, they definitely take him. He's definitely going to be really helpful for that team. But I actually have Jason Owe being taken here, the edge rusher out of Penn State. Jake was talking earlier about how much upside he has, and as an edge rusher, I feel like the Jets desperately need pass rushers. Last year, their best pass rusher had 7 sacks, and it was Quentin Williams, who didn't even play all 16 games. So, yeah, there's no excuse for that. They definitely need help in that arena. So I feel like they stick with Owe here. They go with Owe here. They go with the best edge rusher that's up on the board at this point, and that would be Owe.
24th on the board, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have them going Landon Dickerson, center out of Alabama. For the Steelers, I feel like it's 3 positions they're really going to look at here. It's going to be center, edge rusher, and running back. And while edge and running back are both holes that need to be addressed, I think they're going to take their stab at those with their second and third round picks, where center is a position they can't really fool around with because it's not as deep. I believe they're going to go from one longtime Pro Bowl center in Marquise Pouncey to another guy who most definitely capable of carrying on the legacy from Pouncey and Landon Dickerson. This is a pick I'm feeling less and less confident about. I think Najee Harris could definitely be the pick here, but I don't know. Sometimes running backs don't go as high as you think they are, so I'm going to stick with Landon Dickerson here.
Yeah, I have Najee Harris here. Going to speak of the devil. He's a great dual threat kind of running back. I feel like he'd fit great in their system. Roethlisberger's had guys like this back before too, like Le'Veon Bell. Guys that can catch passes, run routes. No one runs like Le'Veon Bell. But what I'm trying to say is that dual threat running backs like Najee Harris fit well in this offense. Probably go with him here. And really, Pittsburgh right now they're in a win now mode. They don't have time to develop stuff. Running backs are win now picks. They're almost always have their best years in their first 5 years in the league. And, drafting one is a win now kind of pick. You're building a team that's like trying to compete in the Super Bowl. Like last year, the Chiefs took Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's a win now move, right? Pittsburgh is in the last 1 to 2 years with Roethlisberger at this point. They luckily got Smith-Schuster back. So this team is kind of like hanging together by a thread at this point. This is kind of like their last hurrah. They're going to go for somebody that's going to win them games right now. And I feel like that's Najee Harris.
Definitely makes sense. 25th overall, we get the good old Jacksonville Jaguars. I have them going safety Trevon Mayrig out of TCU. This is another team who just got their quarterback, and now they need to turn their focus to the defense. I think they got a ton of holes on defense. They used to have guys like Ramsey, Miles Jack, Yannick Ngakoue. They had a mass exodus. A lot of guys on that defense that almost took them to the Super Bowl. They're all gone now. They got a ton of holes on defense, and I think they're going to take a guy who's clearly the best safety in the draft, and he's going to fit a huge hole because I forgot who their safeties were, but they're definitely, in my opinion, not worthy of being starting safeties in the NFL. Trevon Mayrig, 25th overall to the Jaguars.
So at receiver, I think they're going to draft a receiver here. They don't necessarily need a weapon, but I do feel like they're probably going to think that Rashad Bateman's too good of a prospect to pass up at this point. Some people were really high on him, some were low on him. His film to me was kind of like come see, come saw, but I think a lot of teams are really high on him. I feel like Jacksonville at this point is going to feel like they're getting a steal with him. And if you can draft a guy like this, this early in like Trevor Lawrence's career, you can build that like 1-2 punch kind of thing, right? So I talked about that with some of the other guys, like Mahomes and Hill, that kind of stuff. That 1-2 kind of like connection, like Houston before they pretty much like took their franchise's name and like burnt it to the ground. They had that kind of thing with Hopkins and Watson. So yeah, teams aspire to have that kind of thing. I feel like Bateman is a good enough prospect here for them to be like, hey, we could kind of have that kind of thing. Lawrence could kind of like, come into the league with this brand new receiver that he can throw to. And they're going to take Bateman simply because it's because they took Lawrence. If they weren't the first overall pick in the draft, they didn't have that pick. Maybe they do pick Mayrig, but I feel like they're going to try to like invest more into Lawrence and kind of help him develop like a relationship, day one with a receiver. And Bateman's going to be that guy.
26th overall, we got the Cleveland Browns. I have them taking Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker / defensive weapon. out of Notre Dame. The board just so happens to fall exactly in the favor that the Browns would want to. They're a pretty well-rounded team, but linebacker is without a doubt their biggest need. And I think Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is arguably a top 10 talent for me, and he's a guy who I could definitely see going in the top 20, but the board falls in Cleveland's favor, and they get the ultimate Swiss Army knife to add to their defense.
Yeah, I agree. I have him here as well. I think he's just too again, he's too talented to get past this team, right? They need a linebacker. They have somebody as talented as this guy. I mean, why would they pass up on him? Logically speaking, this is the right pick for them. And, I really feel like they're going to look at the board, say who's the most valuable player I can get that fits my team. This will be the guy. Pretty like simple pick for them, I feel like. I think he's really talented. I think he can do a lot of different things for this team. And, they kind of traded away, a similar kind of, I mean, not the exact same, but like, I think of Peppers, right? Swiss Army knife kind of guy. This guy can fit a similar role, obviously a little bit larger, but he can do similar things around the field. Maybe not the exact same, but he definitely is close to being as tall as Peppers was. So this would be a great pick for them.
27th overall, we got the Baltimore Ravens, my team, who now has 2 first-round picks, and I have them going Liam Eichenberg, tackle out of Notre Dame here. And as a Ravens fan, I feel like I know my team pretty well and their draft strategy. They just traded Orlando Brown to Will's team, the Kansas City Chiefs, and they now have the 27th and 31st overall pick. So I'm going to tell you out of those 2 first-round picks, it's going to be one of these 3 positions. It's going to be tackle, edge, or receiver. And I'm going to rescind that statement real quick because if Trayvon Mayrig is on the board at one of these picks, I think he's in play. But receiver's a huge hole here, and it's a position that the Ravens don't really seem to put high-end draft capital into, and they, quite frankly, aren't very good at drafting. So the Ravens' identity as a team is through the trenches. So I think we need to take a tackle to replace Orlando Brown here. And I think they're going to go tackle over edge here, which might be hinting something at my next pick at 31, because I think there's a possibility Green Bay or Buffalo could take one before pick 31. So I think they're going to make sure they get the tackle they like here. They're going to get Liam Eichenberg, another Notre Dame guy, to put in as a bookend across from Ronnie Stanley, another Notre Dame tackle.
Yeah, so I haven't taken an edge here. Azeez Ojulari. Ojulari is a really great prospect to still be on the board at this point. I do think Mayrig, is someone they could also take here if he's still on the board at this point. But I feel like Ojulari fits their team better, fits their identity better as a defense. I do like the Eichenberg pick a lot. He's a really big prospect. I think he's undervalued a ton. Most of the time he's underrated. People are putting him 50th, sometimes it's even 60th, that kind of stuff. I think that he's better than that. And I think he could be a first round pick. In fact, when the Chiefs were on the board at 31, back before they traded, they were going to take, I was hoping to take someone like Eichenberg. But here I'm going with Azeez Ojulari. They need an edge rusher. This is this guy out of Georgia, great physical prospect. He could honestly go earlier than this. I feel like this is not a reach pick. This is not somebody where it's oh yeah, looking for this diamond in the rough. This is a guy who's a bona fide first round prospect. I would be shocked if he gets past the first round. And in this mock draft, I don't have him going any further. Ravens should take him.
28th overall, we got the New Orleans Saints. I've been going Kadarius Toney, wide receiver out of Florida. The Saints have never had a great number 2 receiver opposite Michael Thomas, and we know Sean Payton has a lot of receivers to choose from at this spot. But I think he's going to go with the guy that can stretch the field away from Michael Thomas and Kamara underneath. Good old slant boy, Michael Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to get a very versatile weapon in Kadarius Toney that Sean Payton would love to scheme some fun plays up for, kind of similar to someone like a Deebo Samuel. So Kadarius Toney, 28 to the Saints.
Yeah. So I talked about Mayrig earlier. He's still not going here. So I'm taking Zaven Collins here for this New Orleans team. They needed linebackers. David is again undervalued kind of guy. He's out of Tulsa, so not from like a major college, but kind of like a mid-major, just a little bit below AAC. Is kind of like a level below. There's just some great prospects come out of the AAC, and I feel like this is one of them. I feel like he's again, as I said before, undervalued, very athletic, a little bit on the, a little bit, size wise, he needs to bulk up a little bit, but I feel like he'd be a great fit for this team. They have guys like these, they used to have guys like Demario Davis, coverage linebackers, pass linebackers. They can sometimes get to the quarterback too. This guy's can be somewhat similar to that. But yeah, no, they're gonna take this guy out of Tulsa at Oklahoma. Nobody wants to live there. He's got to be tough. He's living in Oklahoma and whole college career.
All right, at pick 29, we got the Green Bay Packers. I have them going linebacker Zaven Collins out of Tulsa. And I definitely feel like the Packers could use a lineman or receiver to help out their MVP quarterback. But if you were paying attention to their last year's draft, you saw that's not what the Packers organization likes to do. They don't really like to provide weapons for Aaron Rodgers.
Anything but that.
But luckily for Aaron Rodgers, I think this could indirectly help him, as linebacker is a huge need for them. And they were not able to stop the run against many teams last year. That was kind of their kryptonite. And the reason they didn't make a Super Bowl run or end up in the Super Bowl. And they go get Zaven Collins here. He's a versatile defensive weapon at inside linebacker, and he's an absolute giant for the position. He's almost 6'5", 260. I think this guy has a ton of potential as a freak linebacker, and I think he'll be a decent pick here for the Green Bay Packers at 29.
Yeah, so here at 29, I have Green Bay taking Trevon Mayrig, best safety on the board. I feel like they need secondary help too. Yeah, I have him going defense as well. I think Mayrig here. Mayrig at this point, I think like on average he probably gets drafted in like the low 20s, maybe the high 10s, like the teens, like 18, 19. But here I have him going 29 in this specific situation. I feel like this is sometimes mock drafts are kind of guesswork. You make like a tournament bracket and you kind of think, this is how it's going to happen in this situation. So I feel with this pick in particular, but Mayrig, I feel like would be great for Green Bay, great value with this pick at 29. This guy is, I was like arguably a top 20 prospect overall. So again, they're going to get great value for another position pick. That's kind of how I picked this. I said, hey, what will be the best pick for this situation? For this team, what's the best value? Because teams usually go with the best value picks. Yeah, I'm going to go with Mayrig here.
All right, 30th overall, we got the Buffalo Bills. I have been going Najee Harris, running back out of Alabama. For Buffalo, I feel like they could definitely use some help along the offensive line or maybe another edge rusher. But the more glaring need is at running back, and there's a few guys on the board worthy of the late first-round status as a 3-down back. And they've got Zach Moss, they've got Devin Singletary. I think they're a serviceable enough duo, but their run game was so lackluster last year. I think it prevented them from getting to the Super Bowl, getting past the Chiefs. And I think getting a guy like Najee, who could be a workhorse back, would take a lot of pressure off Josh Allen and make them less one-dimensional as an offense.
Yeah, so I kind of have a similar pick here. It's Travis Etienne. I think they'll take a running back as well. I just don't think Najee will be on the board at this point, which is why they're taking Etienne. I would like to have, if I were the Bills or the Steelers, whatever, I'd like to have Harris over Etienne. I feel like Harris is kind of more NFL built, if you know what I mean. Like he just has NFL size, NFL, you know what I mean? Like he's able to like deal with the physicality of the game while also being a dynamic playmaker out of the backfield who can catch, run all that kind of stuff. But I feel like Etienne is the next best thing. And I feel like Buffalo goes with Etienne here. He could definitely work in their system, especially since what we saw last year with the way that Allen uses his running backs. I feel like Etienne will do well in that kind of system, that kind of surrounding. I feel like they'll understand that, recognize that, and go with Etienne here. So,
31st overall pick, we got once again the Baltimore Ravens. I have them going Azeez Ojulari, edge rusher out of Georgia. As I said before, as I foreshadowed, I believe the Ravens are almost guaranteed to take 2 of the 3 positions, whether it be tackle, edge, and wide receiver with their first 2 first-round picks. And I already gave them a tackle replacement with Liam Eichenberg. And like I said, they just don't seem to value the wide receiver for the position or want to believe that the receivers are that bad, even though they are, or value the position much at all. So I think they're either going to get an edge rusher, which is also a glaring need, and I think they're going to go get Ojulari here. He's a great fit as a dangerous speed rusher in the mold of a Yannick Ngakoue, sort of a guy they just lost in free agency, and also to replace Matt Judon. And Aziz Ojulari, when I watch his film, he's not a complete player, but the Ravens don't. The Ravens have a few guys who can fill in, but what they really need that those guys don't have at edge rusher is this dangerous speed rusher, and I think that's what Aziz Ojulari is. When I just watch this guy, he just feels like a Raven, and I think he's going to be a Raven come draft night.
Yeah, I had him go to the Ravens earlier, so it's kind of in line with what I said. But I think the Ravens here are going to take a receiver. Actually, I probably have too much faith in them as someone who's not a fan of their franchise. But at the same time, I do feel like there is like a negative bias. I remember when the Chiefs were making the Super Bowl, and I was like, oh, they're going to screw it up somehow, that kind of thing. And I say maybe they right their wrongs here and they go with Terrace Marshall and Lamar Jackson finds someone that he can kind of throw to, besides Sammy Watkins out there. So Hollywood Brown, I guess if you want to say that, which might be reaching at this point. But I feel like Marshall would come into their lineup and be their best receiver from day one. Could be their best receiver from day one, essentially. Big body guy, kind of, very athletic, tall guy, pretty much like what you want out of a receiver. He's tall, he's fast, and jump. Pretty typical stuff. I watched him at LSU. Probably got overshadowed a little bit by Chase. But he definitely fits the bill for an NFL receiver. Definitely a solid. He's a solid pick. Could be a solid option out there in the field. And that's really all that Lamar Jackson needs. Just needs someone out there that can make some plays while also do his job. And I feel like right now the guys that they have out there are just not doing their jobs. They're not running Chris Rouse. They're not catching the balls they need to catch on that team. I feel like Terrace Marshall will come in and give them a good start to doing that, introduce some of those guys to doing that kind of stuff. So
32nd overall, we got the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I have them going Greg Rousseau, edge from Miami. I don't think Tampa Bay has any glaring holes on their roster at all. Their pass rush with Shaq Barrett and JPP was an instrumental part in their Super Bowl run, but they're one injury away from weakening that strength. And I think they take a guy who's a huge project at the position. Russo had 15 sacks in 2019 before he opted out. He's still learning the position. And as I said earlier, with a guy like Jason Way, the NFL likes to take chances on these raw pass rushers out of any position. And while this guy had production, it was largely very inflated. And he's a 6'7", 260-pound edge guy who can learn from JPP. And like I said earlier when I was talking about Russo a little bit, that kind of length just doesn't grow on trees. So that size and that length can kind of be valued here. And that's arguably his biggest skill.
So yeah, this is the last pick of the draft, and honestly, I had a guy in mind here, but honestly, I've kind of changed my mind as things just went along. I really feel like, and I'd like to see this more than anything. I do feel like Tony's a good prospect. I feel like he could go here to Tampa Bay. I feel like they might draft a receiver, somebody, just get a new guy and get a new face, add some more depth. You can never really have enough receivers, and Tony would be a great pick here. But I think they're going to go with someone like Rondale Moore. Really quick guy. They can hit on underneath stuff, on screens, that kind of stuff. They already have like deep threats like Godwin, Evans, those kind of guys out there on the field. Guys that stretch the field too. They have, Scotty Miller's blazing fast, kind of a short, kind of like underneath guy as well. But I feel like Rondale Moore could also be used. I compared him to Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel had a great year last year. Is kind of a guy that could, get yards on the ground, get yards to the air. Rondale Moore can do that too. I feel like Tampa Bay kind of like needs someone who's versatile like that. Like the Chiefs have that with Tyreek Hill. They're probably just like, well, we don't really have a guy like that right now. Rondale Moore is a pretty sure bet to be a playmaker in almost any system. So I feel like they're going to go Rondale Moore here.
Okay, and that concludes our mock draft for the first round. I guess we're going to see come draft night how we did in terms of predicting these picks, and that should be interesting.
If I get 10 of them, I'll be happy.
Yeah, definitely. But in the meantime, make sure to comment down below. Let us know how we did for your respective teams. If you think we're pretty accurate, let us know. If you think we're idiots, make sure, make sure to let us know and let us know why. But that's all we got for today, folks. Until next time, I'll see you.